and this is going to be equal to a function, and this is going to take an object, okay? We will call that object family, because that's exactly what it is, right? If you looked at the problem, you saw that it was an object of family members. And what you had to do is you had to find who had the longest name. So, a couple of gotchas for this problem is that the family members' names are actually keys, okay? And then the keys' values were either one of two things, null or an object. So, if it had an object, you had to go down into that object and see that family member's descendants, okay? And check the descendants' names. So, some of you might be saying, oh, well, if type of equals object, like loop through it. Null's type is object, because there is a bug in JavaScript, right? So, we can't use typo. Typo doesn't make sense in this problem, right? However, we know that if it's either null or an object, so we could see if the key's value is truthy or falsy. Because objects, even with nothing inside of them, are truthy, and null is falsy. Okay? So using this logic, we can tackle this problem. So the first thing we want to do, since we want to do this recursively, and even if we were doing it with a loop, we would need something to compare against, right? If we find one name, we have to compare it with something else. So let's make it a variable, longest name. Okay? And we'll set that equal to an empty string, because that is the lowest possible length. It is 0. Okay? Now, we do for let's key in family, right? I actually hate this. I'm just going to make it obj, okay? Let key in object, because that's the type of data we're talking about. So we have let key in object, and we're going to loop through this object. So, if the current name is longer than what we have already, we have to reset it immediately. Because right then and there, when we start iterating through the for and loop, we have something already, right? We have the key, and the key is the name. So we could just say if key.length is greater than longest name.length, and longest name.length, like longest name has a .length property because we initiate it as an empty string. So then we can just say longest name is now going to be equal to key. There, okay? Now we checked one thing, and we will continue. So, now the tricky part comes, right? So now we say if, so the value can be one of two things. It can be null or it can be an object, right? So we can just say if obj at key. If the value of key inside of obj is truthy, then this if statement will run. And this is where we do our recursive stuff. Does this make sense? Everybody follow me so far? Okay, cool. So now we say if get longest name of obj of key dot length is greater than longest name. Longest name. Longest name will now be, oh, actually, no. We can do this, but this doesn't make sense because then we would call it twice, right? So we could say let deeper name equal to this, right? And then we could just say deeper name. Dot length, then longest name equals deeper name. Right? And then we return longest name. So let me go through this, and then I will explain why I just didn't do that in place, okay? So we say everyone followed me up until here. We checked to see if the key was longer than our current longest name, and if it was, we reassigned it. So the first time, it will be reassigned, right? Because any key's length will be longer than nothing. So then we check to see if its value is an object. Check to see if that person, that string, had children or descendants. So then if it did, we go into here, and then we call longest name again, okay? And this will continue to happen until we finally reach a person with no descendants. So, if we reach a person with no descendants, and then we break out of the for in loop, we return that longest name in that situation. So that longest name in that situation, in the deepest situation, gets passed all the way up to this call here, right? And that gets stored in deeper name. We don't do anything yet, we just take the value from there and store it. Now that we got the value, now that we have the value, we use that to compare against longest name. Dot length, right? We use this to compare the length. Then, if it's longer, we just replace it again. Then we return what we got. The reason why I didn't do this here was because if I did if get longest name of object.key dot length is greater than this, then I would have to make another recursive call to get that value back again. Because if I just did it in here, sure, it would get the value and it would compare it. However, the value is not stored there, right? So I store it here so I don't have to call the function again. If I did that, it would run doubly as long, right? Any questions on this? Yeah.
Why does it still work?
Wait, if I take this away? This doesn't work?
All we did was set deeper name equal to get longest name, and the same that works. We don't have to do this.
Let me pull up the problem. Yes. All right. Anyways. So you're saying if I delete this if statement, but still reassign it? Like you're saying delete this line and this line, but still do longest name equal deeper name?
Just the
Just this. Leave this.
and then set longest name equal to
Huh. Is that the solution? That shouldn't be right.
Is it because of the recursive part, like that if statement is taken care of? Because like when it breaks it down, that
Well, huh. If object at key, deeper name is this. But what if here, wait, so this is here. What if here, well, I don't need to console log Q because, so I'm saying in this test, I'm saying I'm adding another child to this one, but this one should still be Sir Paddington, right? Because that's the longest. So if I run this, it's false. Your solution doesn't have that if statement that you see on your screen?
It's the solution.
It is in the solution. Wait, in the solution video, there's no if statement?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's incorrect. So if you don't, I will talk to somebody about that. That's an incorrect statement because as you can see here, there's something deeper after this name, right? And it's just this string. Since I'm not checking to see if what I got is longer than what I already had, and I'm just reassigning it, that means that this function will just return the deepest name instead of the longest name, which is the whole point. So that is incorrect with the solution video, and I would like to deeply, deeply apologize to all of you for being misleaded. No, but seriously, like, you understand why this is necessary. Like, if we just went down and down, we would just reassign and reassign and reassign, and then whatever the deepest thing is what we would get back. But we don't want that. We want what is the longest thing only to be longest name, not whatever was found in the deepest way.
What would be the next solution if we were trying to find the deepest?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you take out the if object at key line? I don't know what line that is. Because if the object at key is null, then get longest name object at key would return false.
It wouldn't. No, if we passed in null to here, the first thing we would be doing is trying to loop through null. So we would get a reference error. You know? We can't call this function again and pass in null. That's the thing, you know? It has to be an object. This only takes an object. So that's what this check does. If it is an object, let's dive deeper. If it's null, we stop that iteration. We don't do the recursive statement, and then that's that. Cool. Oop. Any other questions on get longest name? Any other questions? All right. So now I will do search party. So this one I'll go through quickly too. So we have const search party. And we're going to set that equal to a function. And this is going to take the name of a person we're looking for, and it is also going to take a world. So I thought that this problem was the trickiest, not only for the solution, but also because of the directions. So basically what you need to do is you want to loop through this object that is a world. And what you are going to want to do is return an array of directions. Okay? Now, inside the object, the value can either be another object, an array, or a string. If it is a string, it is a person. If it is an array, it is multiple people. And if it is an object, that means it is another place. So that means the directions get more complicated. So this problem, right from the bat, is hard to think about, right? However, if you really sat down and went through that painful logic, the code really makes sense as you read line by line what we're doing. And I will do this with you now. So, the first thing we could do is loop through the world, right? That's the thing we want to do. We want to check all of the values, all of the outermost values. We don't care how deep it is yet. We just want to check all of the outermost values first. So let's just make the first check, right? So if type of world at key is equal to string, we can check to see if that's the person. That is the first thing we should do. If it's a string, let's check to see if it's the person, because then we found a person and then we could stop. Right? This is our base case. If it is a string and it is one person. Well, if it's an array too, it's also a base case, because we don't do anything after that either. But I'll get to that in a second. So now we say if world at key is triple equal to name. Then we can return an array, and we pass in world at key. We pass in that place, that name. Right? We pass in the name. No, we pass in the place. My bad. We pass in the key. Confused myself for a second. Right? So we found the person, so that means we go here to find that person. So now, what we can do is we could do else if array.isArray of world of key. So that means if it's not a person, the next more specific thing that we should check first is that if it's an array, right? Because if we checked if it was the type of object, that would return true for arrays and objects, right? So we'll make it more specific, and we'll look see if it's an array first, okay? So, array.isArray world of key, right? So inside here, we will say if world at key dot includes name. Then we can do the same logic here, right? Because an array and a string are kind of the same thing, right? In the problem, not in computer science. In the problem, string will be a person, and the array will be an array of people, only people. We know this, okay? So we will do the same thing. However, the way we check is different, right? Here we just check to see if it is the name. Here we have to, you could either have done a for loop. I chose to do the dot includes method, right? This will return true if this name is inside of this array. And if it is inside of this array, we have to return the direction, right? So that means return key. Again. Does everyone follow me so far? Okay. So, now, if it's not, that means we must have an object, because those are the only three things that are going to come up in this situation, right? We must have an object. So now, we can say, let next results, I guess, equal search party again with that same name, however, not this world, but world at key. Because world at key must be a new object. So it's a new place, a new world, right? So we do that again. And then we say, if we found that place, if we found that person, right? So if result, if next results, then we return place dot concat with next result. Otherwise, we return no. Oh, key. My bad. So basically, this thing will go down and down and down until it finds an array or a string. If it finds an array or a string, we can return one of two things, right? We can either return an array of that key, or we exit the loop and return nothing. Okay? And this is a possible solution, right? Null is possible if we never find the person. If the person was never there, it should return nothing, right? But if it does, we return the key, right? So as we go down, those things will be spat back up and concatenated together. So we have a list of directions.
The first two if statements, if a string or if an array, since they have the exact same return, which is just return key, could those just be set in one like or? Like if type of
No, because think about it. Like, you mean these two?
yeah, right.
If we said if type of world of key is equal to string or array.isArray of world of key, right? If we did that, then inside that giant if, we would just have to say if it's an array, loop through it and find it, right? Like, we need to loop through the array, but we just compare the key.
You're doing that via includes. That's how
Yes,
you're
dot
looping.
includes is a loop, basically.
Yeah,
You can't do dot includes of a string, right?
right, okay.
Yeah.
What is world at key pointing to versus key?
World at key. So key is the name of like the place. World at key will either be a new place, it will either be an array of people, or it will either be a person.
So where are we saying the final person? Are we to that yet?
If we find the person, we return the place. What we want to return is an array of directions.
Oh, we don't say the person
Yeah,
and
we-
then the direction?
No, we don't return people. We don't
Oh.
return people. We just look for them, right? And if we find them, if the result is equal to the name, then we return where we found them, the key. We return where we found them, the key. Then we go into that new world and do the same thing again. And then we return everything else concatenated together.
Can you explain where the cat X results? How does that go to the
Second location?
Yeah.
So, like, if next result, right? Like, if we found something, and right now we are like before we make this recursive call, we are still in a location, right? The value was an object; it was a new world. However, the key was still a location. So that's what key is here. So we dive down deep and pass in its value, and then we loop through that object, and then we check to see for the person there, right? And if the person was never there, then this if statement won't run, and we won't return this. But if that person was there, then it returns that inner place. And that inner place is returned here, and it gets concatenated with the outer place. Does that make sense? This problem and the last one were more confusing because we're dealing more with the keys of objects rather than their values. Where this one we have to deal with both. How's everybody feeling? Too much recursion, huh? Well, that's it, alright? Unless there's any more questions on this problem. We could get started with the last lecture. Alright. So, next steps. next steps. So, why are we giving you practice assessments? So we offer practice assessments because working in HackerRank is different than working in REPL or CodePen, okay? Also, working on your own is different from doing workshops with a partner, right? Pair programming and working by yourself are two different things. You have nobody to bounce ideas off of. Also, working with a time limit is different from working at your own pace. That is why we're giving you practice assessment 1, and also 2, really. Because if you fail 2, nothing bad happens to you, okay? So HackerRank, why are we using HackerRank? HackerRank is actually widely used by a lot of different companies when they recruit, right? When they're hiring new positions for engineers. Sometimes the first round would just to do one of their HackerRank quizzes that they send you, right? So it also provides you with a tour describing its features the first time you use it. Take the tour, it doesn't account for your allotted time. Don't take the tour now. I do not give you time for the tour for the day's lesson, okay? But you can take the tour for the practice assessment 2, and if you don't do so well on that one either, and you have to do the real test that is through FullStack's website, take the tour then too, just to familiarize to get used to it, right? But the reason why I'm saying don't do the tour now on your own is because I will show you a little preview of the tour itself. So I will show you what HackerRank looks like, okay? HackerRank also calls your code for you. Like, there's a run button, so you write your code and run, and then it runs against all these test specs. Some of the test specs, you can see. You can see what HackerRank is passing into your function. However, when you click run, you can see them. When you click submit, it will run like 30 other test specs, but you will never get to see those. So it's checking for all these edge cases, okay? That's kind of unfortunate in my opinion. I think that you should know like what the edge cases are, but nevertheless, it's still fine. Yeah, it hides your console logs and the output of your function for only some of the test cases. And it prevents you from opening another browser window. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be 2 buttons, run and submit. If you run, you can see like your console logs and the output, you know. And when you click submit, it runs against more. Also, if there's like 5 questions and you click submit and go to the next one, you can always go back to that question. Okay? If you submit 1 question, that doesn't mean it's like saved and you can't go back, okay? So the practice assessments are generally reflect the length and difficulty of the actual assessment, the actual one being the one through FullStack's website. And the actual assessment can range from 4 to 6 questions. And it also has a time limit of 75 minutes, which is how long you will get to do this assessment, okay? So the practice assessment 1, there is a solution video for that, and the code is available on LearnDown. It is 100% practice. FullStack is never going to look at your submission. If you think you wrote the worst code ever, and you're embarrassed by it, don't worry. Admissions won't look at it, okay? It is for you. Like I said yesterday before some of you left, this is a great way to see where you are lacking, right? If you know where you are lacking in the next week before you take practice assessment 2, you know what areas of computer science and JavaScript you need to focus on to study more, okay? So do this for yourself, you know, just to see, just to measure how ready you think you are for the real thing, okay? So practice assessment 2, I will release to you on LearnDot after the class is over, and FullStack will be looking at these submissions, okay? If you do well, you may be offered the opportunity to skip the real assessment, and you will immediately go into the second round of interviews, right? If you need more practice, you'll still need to take the real assessment, and submitting practice assessment 2 can only help you, and it can't hurt your application anyway. So do it, okay? Because after a while, I think you can't submit it or something like that. I think like after 7 days, like there's a time limit. I'm pretty sure you guys get an email as to when that thing needs to be submitted. Maybe you can still submit it after the deadline. However, FullStack might not be looking at that anymore, you know? So just do it before the deadline, no matter what. What is the point of not? If anything, if you really think you're not ready, it's still just extra problems you haven't seen before, and that is always better than just redoing the same problems over and over again. Do you all agree with that? Like, doing the workshop a million times can only help you so much. It does help, but only so much. Yeah.
How would you know if you did well?
Well, the thing is, like, you'll know how well you do because you know how many test specs you passed for each question.
Is there a bar?
Like, officially? No. So, like,
So how would you know?
I mean, you'll get an email. You get an, yeah. Like, even if you do well or you do poorly, you get an email, regardless, telling you how you do, you know? But, like, you can track your progress during the entire assessment by seeing how many of the test specs you actually got correct, you know? Getting all of the test specs correct doesn't, like, yeah, you'll probably, you know, move on. However, if you don't get all of the test specs correct, that doesn't mean you won't, okay? Because maybe you missed like one weird edge case, maybe you had one syntax error, but all of your logic and code was exactly what it needed to be, right? That also leaves merit to pass on to the next interview, right?
Does that mean someone actually reads all the code that we submit?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that much, right? It's just, this is only for bootcamp prep classes. Yeah.
You have to ask, like, so we're like making comments as we write the code, like, with making feedback or
For sure. I think, honest to God, I can't remember, but I think like after the test is over, I think you can like leave comments of the entire experience, you know, which people will, which they will look at for sure. I'm pretty sure. One time, I took an HackerRank test for an interview, and I was like really confused by like all of the questions because I just got out of full site and I had no idea what I was doing. So I like wrote a bunch of comments, and I actually got the interview because they liked all of my comments and I was breaking down the problems. Just so you know.
Is there a partial effect?
Yeah, like I said, like if you don't pass all of the test specs, like you just might still get it. You know? Okay. So for continued practice, there's this book, Eloquent JavaScript. It's among the best all-around introductions to JavaScript. Chapters 1 through chapter 5 are appropriate for your experience level, and practice problems get challenging really fast. So it's available for free online. I've never read it. Don't ask me if I think it's good or not, in my opinion, but FullStack recommends it to you, so I trust their opinion, so you should too. And it's free. Free is good. Pizza is free too. Pizza is good, right? Book, pizza, free. Continued practice is also Code Wars. So Code Wars, like, it's great for steady stream of JavaScript problems, but be careful that you don't dive into extremely advanced problems that prevent you from practicing and mastering your fundamentals. Code Wars also allows you to check out other user solutions. So, like, I think Code Wars is cool. Like, I really do. I think it's cool. They have a lot of good problems on there. However, they have a lot of bad problems on there, too. Also, if you just, like, did a difficult question over and over again, like you just did a string of questions that were just like way too hard for you, that can demoralize you and leave you away from programming. So just be wary. I think it's measured in Qs, you know, 1 Q is almost impossible to do. 8 Q, I think, is the lowest, or 7 Q. Do 8 Q questions or 7 Q questions, okay? Also, if you read user submissions, some of them will be doing weird stuff, okay? So don't take like the short solutions to heart. There's a lot of like regular expressions and stuff that you guys don't even know about, okay? So just be careful, but it is good for new problems, which, as I said before, doing new problems is always better, right? There's also this thing, Project Euler. Assessments test coding ability, but they also test logic and mathematical thinking. Some takers report feeling comfortable with the coding concepts, but not with some of the analytical problem solving that was required. It's a great source of math-oriented problems, including algorithmic problems. So this is more like mathy, you know? I've never used it either. But it is something that is there for you to use, to check out if you want more practice, okay? Always check stuff out. Don't like just let it alone, you know? Also, one of the best ways to stay motivated and continue learning is to work on a personal project, build a portfolio website, build a tic-tac-toe in your browser window, Sudoku solution, making it real, Conway's Game of Life, build a cool node project, text a number, whatever. Some resources for that are Team Trios, Code School, Code Academy, Free Code Camp. So, like, these are all, a lot of these words probably, like, build a cool node project. Some of you guys don't know what that is, what node is. Like, some of you would have no idea how to build something in the browser, which is fine. But looking into this, if you feel comfortable with JavaScript, like, programmatically, like doing all these questions in the workshops and stuff, definitely take a look into some other languages that can only help you. When I say other languages, I don't mean Python. I mean like HTML and CSS, markup, okay, and styling. Because no matter what you do, you will have to do them, okay? Okay? Before I got into Foundations, I did Code Academy's free course on HTML and CSS. And it was hella boring. It was the worst. It was really boring and really low. But it definitely made a lot more sense. It made a full stack a lot more easier when we had to actually look at that. Like, I wasn't looking at HTML for the first time in the bootcamp, So just like extra stuff. Don't worry about Node yet because you learn Node in full stack in the actual episode, okay? So if you have any questions, email here about admissions. Like if you're like, hey, like it's been a week, what's going on? No one got back to me. Just send an email over here. And if they don't respond to your email, just Slack me and I'll yell at some people. I'll make some calls, okay? For you guys, I'll do anything. Talent is a pursued interest. Anything that you're willing to practice, you can do. And that's it. That's the last slide. Yeah.
What's the timing for the actual test after we take practice?
75
minutes.
All 75 minutes.
No, I mean, like, how long do we have until we have to take
Oh, like after today? I think you have like a week.
for practice assessment 2 for the final one?
For practice
Actually.
assessment 2. The final one you can take 2 years from now.
No. Do you know how soon we have to do it to be in time for January?
To be in time for January, I'll do it as soon as possible. I don't actually know the time frames, but I'll do it as soon as possible. The one after that, I think, was in March. Yeah, I'll just do it as soon as possible. But if you don't feel ready, don't just rush, What's the difference between January and March, right? 2 months, okay? It's fine. Okay? If you don't feel prepared, okay? You got a question? No, take practice assessment 2 first. You guys are in bootcamp prep. You guys are super special. Okay. Like, they look at this and they're like, hey, this person, they interviewed them, For those of you who are interested in going for Grace Hopper, I can't remember what you have to do. But there is, like, somewhere where you can just, like, say which one you want to do. Like, full stack or Grace Hopper. I can't really remember. Also, a good question to ask at admissions if you want. The people at admissions are super friendly. They'll talk to you all day. Don't worry about it. Alright?
What do you know about the part-time program versus the full-time?
Flex?
Versus
So Flex is 6 months. So it's not 3 months, it's 6 months. And I'm pretty sure it is 2 days a week, this long, like it's the same hours from here. 6:40 to 9:40. Then I think it's like 2 weekends a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone that went on from your boot camp into
No,
part-time?
I don't. Because well, I didn't go through boot camp prep, so like I just like came to the boot camp.
Right. But, like, if any students that you've taught.
Oh no, I haven't been teaching that long.
Oh, okay.
So, but I do know like people like don't just go into there and like don't do well. People that go through Flex usually are more professional people, You know, like they're older, they don't want to give up their careers, so they do this at night. And it takes longer. They're fine with that. You know, and it still like yields great results for sure.
Because I've asked the admissions office for like one grad that they could put me in touch with to talk about it, and I got
We should have
nobody.
because like I think like maybe one or two times when we were here, Flux was on the other side of the room. You know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anybody personally that went through the Flex program, but I know it's successful. Like I know it's like not a sham or anything. You know. It just takes longer. You put in the same amount of hours. You know. It's more. It's definitely more self-studying, like intensive. You know, because whereas you're in the immersive, you're just here all the time. You know? You're just here and you got to do it. You know. Whereas you have your own job, you're doing the Flex program, so you kind of have to, if you're falling behind, you have to like do the work yourself to catch up. You know? And it's cheaper, I think. Well, not that much, but it's cheaper. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you know anecdotally like how long people prepare after they finish up boot camp prep between that and actually applying for boot camp? Like, how, do they take like about a month to
Wait, what are you actually asking?
um
Like how long they take?
yeah, so we're done with boot camp prep now, and like for if we want to go like, apply for the January 24th, application is due by November 24th.
Okay.
So that's enough time, right, to like
Yeah.
assessment test,
Yeah.
apply,
I think so. Yeah.
like get called for the one-on-one.
I mean, the thing is, see, like the timing schedule for the interview is the only thing that I can't like guarantee you because I have no knowledge of that. But like for you yourself, as being mentally prepared for all this to happen quickly, yes, I do think so. Unless you personally don't feel comfortable with some of the concepts, then you might want to take some time to study. Also, when I got into full stack, I got in time for like the November cohort, but I was like, no, I want to work a little more, make no money, but still like work a little more, you know. And then I like went to the January cohort. So you can, if once you get in, you could like push off your start date if you wanted to. Okay. And I was fine, you know, taking that month gap in between that and foundation. Yeah.
If you apply and you don't get in, how many times can you reapply? Like, is there a window where you like have to wait to reapply?
There is a window. There is a window you have to wait. If you take like the second assessment and fail, and then you take the real thing from the full stack's website and fail, I think you have to wait like a little bit. But if you want, I don't know, maybe they'll make you an exception. Like, ask them. I don't know. Like you could talk to them after, if that ever happens to any of you, which I really don't think it will. Yep. Think about the positives, not the negatives. But yes, there is a waiting period.
Okay.
I don't know how long it is. Any other questions? We'll still hang around after the assessment to answer any questions too. You know?
I have a question like post boot camp, like when you first got placed in a role, like your
Post boot camp?
post boot camp, like how was that experience? Like Flux, like you did a career switch, right? So
Yeah, I
the
did,
first
yeah.
time. So what was that experience like in the first?
So I won't lie to you guys. Finding a job, no experience in the engineering field, is really, really hard. It's really hard. And if you're the type of person that just gives up on things, then just don't do this. Okay? You have to really work every single day. There are some kids that I knew that I was friends. You know, I have like my core group of friends that go through full stack. Majority of them aren't engineers because they just stopped applying to jobs and they stopped practicing algorithms after full stack. Whereas me, I did it every single day. I did my own side project. I made all these like stupid networking calls and stuff like that, like coffee, meetups and stuff with alumni. I hated it, you know. So like you have to do. You have to try and get your name out there to get like any sort of recognition. Because your resume will just like this is the truth. It will probably be filtered, you know, if you just cold apply. Okay. And it took me what? It took me 9 months to find it. Because it didn't take me like 9 months to find an interview. I'm just a really bad interviewer. Okay, I like freeze up and I don't know. It's just me personally. And like, if you don't get a lot of interviews, like frequent interviews, then each interview is just like more and more like there's more pressure, more pressure, more pressure. I can't do it. I have like anxiety, so I can't do it. Yeah? So it took me a while, but I finally got a job that I did well in the interview, and I got it through hitting up somebody on the Full Stack Alumni channel. You know, the Full Stack Alumni Slack channel has like job boards that people just say, "Hey, my company's hiring. If you want a referral, Slack." It's very useful, and that's how I got my job. Just letting everyone know. Okay? If you have a bachelor's in computer science, your life will be a little easier. However, not too much, right? Like you never know. Okay? It won't get filtered by cold applying. However, you still have no job experience. There are some people that I went to the boot camp with who were ex-project managers of tech companies, who were people that had various roles at other startups. So they're very desirable for startups, you know? So it all depends on your background. But everybody who tried, who really did try, has a job for my code. All. Except for the people that stopped. It's all on you. This is all on you, okay? No one's just going to give you a job, you know? You have to really try. It's really hard. All of you can do that, okay? Don't get discouraged. That's just the truth. I just wanted everyone to know, okay? Yeah.
How would you say how stable your field is? I'm in a great field, and if you were to stay longer, it doesn't guarantee you'll get a better job after that. Because I guess this is your
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, if I just started working in January, right? If I like have another year under my belt, like I could definitely find an easier job, like a job at a better company would pay a little better, for sure. If I have like 6 years experience, so that is if you are actively getting better as a programmer while you're working. You know, if you just stagnate, no one will hire you, right? But if you get better, like yeah, there's definitely like so much more room for growth.
Why would you stagnate? What would like a day-to-day situation be if someone who's stagnating?
I mean,
like a coworker.
if they do the bare minimum, yeah. Like if I'm on a team of 2 people, which I was, and let's say, like me and my coworker, we own the entire product of the front end, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, like he was slacking the entire time, and I would have to go in and fix all of his bugs. You know, what would he be learning? He would just be doing what he knows, the bare minimum. However, the entire time that would be wrong. That would be the wrong thing. You know. So like you have to actively try in your job, just like any other job, right? So you can stagnate if you don't like actively see how you're getting worse, or I mean, actively see what you're doing wrong and try to make it better. You have to try and make yourself better, because when you go into the job, you won't know everything. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you go into a job, hopefully you'll be in a place where you'll have at least one person that's been there at least a year, you know, that can help you. That can be sort of like a mentor figure for you, okay? You straight up gotta work to get that job. It's really hard. The first job is hard. The next job is fun, okay?
Are you on job 1 or 2 right now?
All of you guys know about job 2. My coworker was from Full Stack. He graduated 2 years before I did. And then he just left. He was working at Priceline now, which is better than what I am.
Where do you work?
I said it on day
I-
2 with the loops.
I didn't catch debugger. I didn't catch anything.
I work at New York Life,
Oh,
in
okay.
the R&D lab. So we're making like applications for various departments inside of New York Life. It's really boring. Nah, it's not. I would just rather not work for a life insurance company. Yeah.
Do you feel like the day-to-day content is boring, or because like your coworkers are boring, or
It's just like very corporate.
the company culture is boring?
Yeah, like I feel like I don't really strike anybody as a corporate kind of person. So you can just imagine me in this place. You know? But I don't have to wear a suit, so that's cool. Okay. So, do you guys want to see HackerRank? This is HackerRank. Okay? Bootcamp Practice Assessment 1. Oh, shit. So down here, it knows I'm me, but like it will say log in, right? So you will have to make your own HackerRank profile, give your email, give a password, whatever. Click these buttons to share your HackerRank profile with FullStack, and then start the challenge, okay? So I will show you the sample test by clicking this up here. So this looks the same thing. This will be what you see, right? Question 1, find the number. So you'll have this thing, given an unsorted array of n elements, find the element k is present in the array or not. Complete the find number function in the editor below. Whatever. You read through everything, and the function must return a string yes or no. So like, sample input. This is kind of hard to read. Oh, sample input, so they're giving us an array of 5, and we're looking for the element 1. 1 is at index 0, so we print yes, right? Given the array 2, 3, 1, we're looking for 5. There is no element 5, so we print no, right? Oh, and you have to, I think this is not preset because it's the sample test, but like, and then they give you this already set up, right? So now, don't touch this down here, okay? Just right here. So we could say like, return r.includes k, right? Includes k. So now we run our code, and you see these test cases. Oh, did I do something? Oh, I have to return yes or no. So if r.includes k, return yes. Return no, right? So if we run our code and you see the wrong answer, right? Expected output yes, my output was true. The input was this. And if I said like console.log, right? And I ran this, I get my output down here, right? The debug output, okay? So it's just a different environment. It's pretty much the same thing though, right? Like the questions are up here, the first, and then you could see the sample inputs and sample outputs, right? And then the explanation. And then, once you say run, and you're like, oh cool, I passed 12 test cases. I'll submit this code and I'll continue. Alright? I'll just do one problem to give you guys more time, okay? So, you guys want a 10-minute break or a 5-minute? 5-minute break? At 8:40, I will release practice assessment 1, okay? So we'll take it. And then after I'll still stick around. You guys can ask me questions about whatever you guys want, okay?